Hey everyone, welcome back to another video by Chris Silverman. Today I'm going to share with you best practices for installing shelving. So I am installing today a TR700 10 by 12 and I have three types of shelving, which Tuff Shed, they offer three types of shelving. They have a 24-inch, they have a 16-inch, and they have a 12-inch. Well, this shed is going to get all three. The 24-inch shelving, and this one is actually a workbench. And what that means is instead of roof sheathing, we're going to use floor sheathing, and that's the difference. And so I'm going to share with you best practices for installation of these products. First and foremost, I'm going to do my workbench. So whenever you're installing shelving or a workbench, you're going to have I should pop it up on the screen right here. You're going to have a installer worksheet that tells you on the center column under optional details, it'll tell you what the shelving units are, and in the little picture it tells you where they go. So this back wall here gets not only a workbench, but it also gets pegboard, and so we're going to do that. Alright, so typically your worksheet is going to tell you the height of the placement, and sometimes it does not tell you. When it does tell you, it typically says 39 inches. I hardly ever go by that number just because it's never on the worksheet. It's never clear. What I typically do is measure 36 inches off the ground, and from there, that's where I install it. So 36 inches off the ground. I start on one end and the other end, and I measure 36 inches. I'm gonna measure this side 36 inches. Now that I've measured each side 36 inches, I'm going to install my brackets. Now that I got a bracket on this end and this end, I take the front-facing fascia 2x4 I go ahead and stretch that out across, and now I install the rest of my brackets. Typically, the way I install it is I go every other stud. The reason I do that is because sometimes Tuff Shed will not have enough brackets, and so you have more on one end than the other. That's problematic. So I just typically go every other one, and then I fill in the empty spaces. Now I just go ahead and put my fascia board on the front of it. I start on one end, measuring, not measuring, but nailing them in and adjusting my board as I go. Now I'm going to get my top. So I stretch it out across, and I have a bracket ending right here, and so then I will take my pencil, which is on the ground. I'll take my pencil and I mark this one. Now you'll see on this edge this is the tongue and groove, and this is the female side of the groove, and I will have the female side of the groove stick out in order to cut it, and after I cut, I'll twist it around so it's a clean edge. And my cut side is against the wall. And the factory edge meets factory edge so that it looks pretty on the interior side and on the interior of the workbench. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut this and I'll be right back. Same thing with this one. I got it in place and it's overlapping so that I can just mark out the perfect cut. Alright, and that fits in very nicely. And so now my seam is factory edge to factory edge, so it looks smooth and not jaggedy from my cut. Alright, next up is my pegboard. The pegboard really isn't anything fancy. You just put it up right on top of here, and it's good to just overlap it, make a mark, and then I just nail it in. Alright, now that I got this one side done, it's now time to start with my shelving. I have two shelves. I have a 16-inch shelf, and then I also have a 12-inch shelf. The 16 is going to go on the bottom, and then my 12-inch shelf is going to go on the top. Now, when I do my 16-inch shelf, I have a 1/2-inch piece of sheathing here that's going to be used as the top, and that is much different from my 3/4-inch top that I use for my workbench. So, in measuring for the appropriate height, what I do is I take my bracket, and my first bracket is going to butt up next to this one, and I'm going to measure a 1/2 inch. And now from the floor to this bracket is 36 1/2. I go to the other end, 36 1/2, and I install my bracket on this end. Now that I got my board in place, I'm now going to go ahead and fasten all the rest of my boards in. It looks like I have plenty. And this is flush, and I like that. Now I got it in place, and I'm gonna go ahead and nail it in. All right, now that I got my bottom shelf in, the next and last shelf is going to be my 12-inch shelf that goes up top. Typically, they have a worksheet that tells you how high it's supposed to go, and of course, most times that worksheet doesn't tell you how high it's supposed to go. The number is blank. Most of the time, it's 39 inches for the bottom and 60 for the top, and those numbers, they just don't make sense. Most times I do mine 36 and then probably about 64 inches, and in doing that, it gives it a pretty good amount of space between. So if I did this one at 64, the between number is going to be just above 2 feet. So when in doubt, always ask the customer, because the customer can tell you where they want it. So you can see, now that I'm installing this shelf, I'm glad that I put my pegboard in first. I can go ahead and put this on there and it'll just butt right into it, and it makes it look clean. This board tells me where all my brackets are gonna go. All right, that's a wrap. That is my best practice for installing shelving and Workbench. They install the same. What else do I have for you? That may have been just a little bit rushed. I did it off the top of my head. I didn't really think through too much, and so it is my hope that this was helpful. And when you're in a tight spot and you can't remember exactly how it goes, or if you're just learning something new, want to see how other installers do their thing, this is it. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. That's a wrap. I'll see you guys next time.